Coffee spills and unexpected news. The ceramic mug betrayed Carmen, slipping from her unsteady grip and unleashing a torrent of hot coffee onto the diner's linoleum floor. A wave of irritated sighs swept through the already bustling breakfast crowd. "Ay, Dios mío," she breathed, snatching a wad of napkins. The sharp, caramelized scent of burnt sugar mingled with the stale coffee aroma, a stark reminder of her precarious finances. "My apologies, everyone. This one's on me," she announced, her face flushed. Tears stung at the corners of her eyes. Another day, another stumble. How could she possibly cover rent, much less care for Sophia and Isabella, when she couldn't even hold a simple cup? Murmuring sheepish excuses, she scrubbed at the mess, the acidic tang cutting through the rich, savory air. Mrs. Henderson, a regular known for her gossiping and bottomless coffee cup, gave her arm a sympathetic pat. "Don't you worry your head, dear. We all have those days. Keep smiling." Carmen mustered a weak smile, but her spirit felt crushed. Easy to say, not so easy to do when the world seemed to rest squarely on her shoulders. 2 daughters, a job offering no future, and bills that multiplied like rabbits. The so-called American dream felt like a far-off illusion. The morning trudged on, a relentless cycle of orders barked, plates balanced high, and smiles plastered on her face like cheap wallpaper. The metallic clink of silverware and the constant drone of conversations formed a jarring soundtrack to her stress. As the lunch hour loomed, her feet throbbed, her head pounded, and her patience frayed. Just as she considered a quick escape to the back, a man in a charcoal suit entered. He seemed incongruous in the diner's bright atmosphere, a shadow intruding on sunshine. The sharp tap of his polished shoes echoed on the worn floor as he surveyed the space, his gaze settling on Carmen. Approaching, he offered a controlled, polite smile. "Ms. Carmen Rodriguez?" She straightened, wiping her hands on her apron. "That's me. I'm Mr. Davies, from Miller & Zoy's. I need a word with you. Is there somewhere we might speak in private?" An unsettling premonition washed over her. Lawyers never heralded pleasant tidings, especially not for someone in her position. Had she missed a payment? Was there a problem with her living arrangements? "I'm in the middle of my shift," she replied, gesturing to the crowded tables. "This is rather pressing, Ms. Rodriguez. Perhaps your manager could spare you a few moments." With reluctance, she gestured towards the back. "Let me see if I can get a break." Her manager, Bob, a perpetually sour individual, eyed Mr. Davies with mistrust, but grudgingly allowed her 15 minutes. "Don't push it," he growled. "We're swamped." Carmen led Mr. Davies to a cramped, disorganized storage room. The air hung heavy with the scent of bleach and day-old coffee. Perching on an inverted bucket, she tried to ignore the butterflies fluttering in her stomach. Mr. Davies opened his briefcase, extracting a thick manila envelope. "I'm here to inform you of the death of your father, Roberto Rodriguez." The word struck with the force of a physical blow. Roberto, her father, gone. She hadn't seen or spoken to him in years, not since everything had crumbled. A tangled mess of sorrow, blame, and animosity stirred within her. I haven't seen him in years," she managed, her voice a mere breath. "What happened?" "He passed away peacefully in his sleep, Ms. Rodriguez. No foul play suspected." Mr. Davies' tone was measured professional. Carmen swallowed thickly, struggling to absorb the information. Roberto, her father, once both idol and disappointment, a source of both pride and anguish. Their bond had been fractured, strained by long years of silence and unspoken grievances. "My condolences," Mr. Davies continued, his expression softening slightly. "There's more, Ms. Rodriguez. Your father left a will, and in that will, he designated you as the sole heir to his estate." She stared, speechless. Her father had bequeathed something to her? After all the years of estrangement and silence? It seemed impossible. What did he leave? Mr. Davies cleared his throat. "The primary asset is a service station in Harmony, Nevada. It's called Rodriguez Gas and Go." A gas station? Of all things, her estranged father had left her a dusty gas station in the middle of nowhere. She could almost feel the disappointment settle in her bones like sediment. Was this a cruel joke? A final, ironic twist? A gas station? She echoed, her voice dripping with disbelief. That's it. There are other assets, of course, Mr. Davies responded, shuffling through his papers. But the service station is the most significant. It's fully operational, although I understand its profitability has been limited recently. Carmen's thoughts raced. A gas station. What was she supposed to do with a gas station? She knew nothing about managing any kind of business, much less a gas station in a town she'd never even heard of. I don't understand, she said, shaking her head. Why me? He has other children. Why leave it all to me? Mr. Davies adjusted his glasses. I cannot speak to your father's motivations, Ms. Rodriguez. The will is quite explicit. You are the sole beneficiary. The news felt unreal, almost cinematic. She, Carmen Rodriguez, struggling waitress and single mother, was now the proprietor of a gas station. It was bizarre, preposterous, and utterly overwhelming. Memories of her father surged through her. Roberto, the charismatic charmer with a smile that could disarm anyone. Roberto, the hard-working provider who always put his family's needs first. But also Roberto, the aloof, secretive man who kept his emotions tightly guarded, the man who had ultimately driven her away with his deceits and broken promises. She recalled the arguments, the slammed doors, the tear-filled nights spent wondering where she had fallen short. She recalled the sting of abandonment, the feeling that she had somehow failed to meet his approval. The gas station, she suspected, was simply another layer of complication in a life already burdened by the past. I need some time to process this, she said, her voice barely audible. This is a lot to take in. Of course, Ms. Rodriguez, Mr. Davies said, handing her a card. Please don't hesitate to contact me with any questions. I will also need you to initial these documents acknowledging receipt of this information. She took the card and the papers, her hands trembling slightly. As she signed her name, she couldn't help but wonder what had been going through her father's mind when he drafted the will. What secrets was the Rodriguez gas and go concealing? And what did it all signify for her future and the future of her daughters? Walking back into the diner, the aroma of frying bacon and burnt coffee seemed even more intense than earlier. The din of dishes and the murmur of conversations washed around her, yet she felt strangely disconnected, as if observing her life unfold from a distance. She knew one thing. Her life was on the cusp of a seismic shift, and she had a feeling that the Rodriguez Gas and Go would be more than just a gas station. It would be a portal, unlocking a past she had diligently tried to bury and revealing a future beyond her wildest imaginings. Sibling rivalry and a rundown station. The call with Sophia ended abruptly. He bequeathed that to you. Disbelief coated Sophia's voice, each word sharp enough to cut glass. A wayside gas station? Carmen, you've always been the charity case, haven't you? Carmen's grip tightened. That's what the estate lawyer conveyed. The lawyer's probably complicit, Sophia scoffed. Some shady scheme. Cash it out, quick. Honestly, a gas station. Her voice faded in a dramatic sigh. Dad's humor was always twisted. Ricardo's reaction was even less sensitive. He actually brayed with laughter, the sound grating in her small apartment. Rodriguez Gas and Go. It's a cosmic joke, Car. Ditch it. Now, you know squat about running a filling station. You'll be belly up in a week. Maybe, Carmen replied, struggling to sound resolute. Or maybe I'll prove you wrong. Prove us wrong by hemorrhaging money faster? Ricardo guffawed. Look, sis, face facts. You sling hash. This is some backwater pit stop. Take what you can get and move on. Their low expectations were nothing new. A familiar, acrid taste rose within her. Yet a different current surged through her this time. This wasn't about placating them, about their snide pity. It was about her father, about the unknown, and a future that had never occurred to her. I'm going to see it, she declared, the words a surprise even to her. Exercise in futility, Sophia dismissed. A fool's errand, Ricardo piled on. Carmen severed the call, cutting off the corrosive negativity. She glanced at her sleeping daughters sprawled on the worn sofa bed. They deserved more than the precarious existence she'd scraped together. Maybe, just maybe, this absurd inheritance could offer them a real chance. The drive to harmony felt like venturing into another dimension. Urban sprawl yielded to endless desert vistas, the sun-baked asphalt radiating heat. Billboards hawking casinos and the world's largest thermometer punctuated the desolate scenery, their promises as tattered as their peeling paint. Approaching harmony, the landscape grew even more stark. The town was just a handful of time-worn buildings clinging to a dusty crossroads. A solitary tumbleweed pirouette across the highway, a cliché so blatant Carmen wanted to weep and giggle simultaneously. Then it came into view, Rodriguez Gas and Go. Decrepit didn't begin to cover it. It looked antediluvian. The faded crimson paint flaked off the fuel pumps, revealing rusted scars. The sign, missing crucial letters, proclaimed Rod S and _O, the remaining glyphs threatening to detach with the next gust. The building was a squat, low structure with a fractured foundation and windows glazed with so much grime they appeared opaque. Weeds erupted from every crack, a testament to years of utter neglect. Carmen parked her aged sedan, the tires spitting gravel. She stepped out, the arid air instantly leaching moisture from her. A dizzy spell assailed her. This was it. This was the inheritance. This was what her father had chosen to leave her. Overwhelm threatened. She knew nothing of running a business, let alone a gas station. A single mom, a waitress barely making rent. What could she possibly do with this decaying relic? Drawing a shaky breath, she forced herself towards the building. The warped front door emitted a mournful groan as she pushed it open. The interior was even more dismal than anticipated. Dust motes pirouette in sunbeams, slicing through smeared windows, exposing thick layers of grime. The air hung heavy with the tang of stale fuel, old motor oil, and something else, an indefinable, musty essence of forgotten eras. Behind the counter, an ancient cash register sat like a metal fossil. A smattering of dusty goods lined the shelves, sun-faded maps, cracked shades, and vintage motor oil cans that belonged in a museum. A 1998 calendar, skewed on the wall, displayed images of smiling families, grotesquely out of place in this desolate setting. Dragging a finger along the counter, she left a clean trail in the thick dust. More than mere dirt, it was a tangible accumulation of desertion, of a life abandoned. A faint scuttling noise startled her. A mouse whisked across the floor, vanishing into a hole in the wall. Despite the desolation, an odd magnetism drew her in. Beneath the filth, she detected a narrative, a story awaiting discovery. This wasn't just a derelict station. It was a time capsule where travelers had paused, refueled, and perhaps exchanged moments of connection amidst the vast emptiness. She went behind the counter and looked out the front window. The desert stretched endlessly, a sea of sand and sage. The silence was punctuated only by the occasional passing vehicle, its occupants oblivious to the saga concealed within the walls of Rodriguez Gas and Go. Her father had lived here his entire life. What had he been thinking? What had he been doing? Why had he never shared this place? Why had he never revealed anything of substance? A metallic glint snagged her gaze. Tucked in a dark corner behind the counter, partially obscured by a stack of aged tires, was a small metal box. It was secured by a lock, its surface encrusted with rust. Carmen hesitated. Should she force it open? Did she even have the right? This was a sliver of her father's existence, a facet she knew nothing about. But innate inquisitiveness, a trait inherited despite their strained dynamic, clawed at her. She tugged, but the lock remained unyielding. Frustrated, she slammed her fist against the counter, the sound echoing. "Damn it, Dad," she muttered. "Why did you have to complicate everything?" As if answering, a subtle breeze whispered through the doorway, carrying the odor of gasoline mingled with something fainter, something elusive, a subtle murmur of buried secrets. Carmen squared her shoulders, a spark of resolve flaring. This place wouldn't conquer her. She would unearth the mysteries within, understand her father, and forge a path in this forgotten realm. The first task, locate a locksmith. Ghosts of the past. The bell, long gone from its post, offered no herald to Carmen's arrival. Yet, the stillness within the station screamed volumes. Sunbeams, attenuated by grime-laden windows, sliced through the gloom, illuminating motes suspended in a tableau vivant. The air, thick with the reek of aged fuel and engine grease, carried a subtler, haunting note, a whisper of moth-eaten fabrics and bygone hopes. The linoleum groaned a protest under her worn boot soles as she entered. The office, smaller than recalled from childhood visits, felt claustrophobic. A dented steel desk, a swivel chair shedding vinyl flakes, and precarious paper mountains threatened an avalanche. "All right, Dad," she murmured, her voice echoing in the confined space. "Time to see what you kept hidden." The desk yielded the mundane. Corroded clips, lifeless pens, a scattering of faded slips. But in the top drawer, beneath a frayed Texas road map, lay a collection of unusual tools, not for automotive repair, but finer, more specialized implements. Miniature screwdrivers, a lens of magnification, and a peculiar metal pick ending in a delicate hook. Carmen lifted the pick. Its chill contrasted sharply with the humid air. What purpose had they served? They felt almost surgical. Hours dissolved as Carmen meticulously navigated the chaos. Invoices spanning decades chronicled every transaction. Each gallon pumped, every tire changed, each engine mended. The sheer volume spoke of dedication, or perhaps a relentless fixation. Everything meticulously logged. Deeper, she unearthed a ledger, its pages filled with neat, disciplined script. Dates, names, sums. The names meant nothing. The sums seemed arbitrary. One entry, recurring, stated simply, supply, Eagle Eye. What kind of supply? And who is Eagle Eye? A customer? A code? Frustration pricked at her. The answers were here, tantalizingly near, yet indecipherable. Drowning in data, she was parched for understanding. The last box lay sequestered at the rear of a dusty filing cabinet, nearly invisible. Plain cardboard, sealed with aged tape and labeled in faded ink, memories. Carmen hesitated. This felt different, acutely personal. Inhaling deeply, she sliced the tape with a rusted letter opener unearthed from the desk. Within, cradled by yellowed clippings and ribbons faded to pastel, lay a collection of photographs. The first one made her inhale sharply. Her father, younger than she remembered, stood before a colossal redwood. He wore a crisp khaki uniform, his features etched by sun and wind, but his eyes blazed with a vibrancy she had never witnessed. He looked truly alive. Carmen leafed through them, her pulse quickening. Each revealed a hidden facet. There he was again, atop a snow-laden peak, his arm around a woman whose laughter seemed to echo from the image. Again, navigating a vibrant foreign market, his face obscured by sunglasses. And again, at a smoky cafe table, engrossed in conversation with a man whose face remained partially masked by shadow. These images depicted not a simple gas station proprietor, but a globetrotter, a man whose life extended far beyond the confines of this dusty Texas backwater. One photo snagged her gaze, a monochrome image of her father before a nondescript building in a bustling city she didn't recognize. He wore a dark suit, his expression focused. On its reverse, a single word scrawled, Langley, Langley, the locus of CIA operations. A wave of cold dread washed over her. What involvement had her father had? Was he some kind of operative? The notion felt outlandish, yet the evidence mounted. The pictures, the tools, the cryptic ledger, all hinted at a clandestine life, shrouded in secrecy and deceit. She continued, unearthing fragments. A tarnished silver compass, etched with the initials RR, a slim, leather notebook filled with coded characters. A faded portrait of a young woman, her face hauntingly familiar, yet unknown. As twilight descended, casting elongated shadows, Carmen felt a profound disquiet. She had sought answers, a comprehension of her father and her own place within his story. Instead, she had unearthed more enigmas, more mysteries. The secrets of her father's past were like specters, swirling around her, murmuring in the shadows. And with growing certainty, she knew she would not rest until those specters were quieted. The innocent inquisitiveness she had started with morphed into something far more compelling, a sense of destiny she couldn't shake. Carefully, she returned the box to the filing cabinet. The office seemed to chill, the silence to deepen. She glanced around, feeling observed, as if phantoms from her father's past were watching her next move. Leaving the office, she paused at the doorway, casting one last look at the gas station. No longer just a dilapidated structure, a testament to her father's perceived failure. It had become a vault of secrets, an entrance to a hidden realm. And Carmen Rodriguez was poised to step through it, a mysterious ally. The gas station bell's jangle, usually a mundane sound, made Carmen flinch. After a morning of its incessant ringing, it still startled her. She glanced up from her struggle with the recalcitrant cash register, its innards a Medusa-like coil of wires and springs threatening to lash out. A figure occupied the doorway, a silhouette etched against the glaring desert light. Squinting, Carmen discerned a tall woman, raven hair swept back in a tight, disciplined style. A tailored linen dress hinted at understated elegance, and dark glasses concealed her eyes. An aura of serene self-assurance surrounded her, a stark contrast to Carmen's own frayed nerves. "Help you." Carmen's tone came out edgier than intended, a result of the register's defiance and the previous night's unsettling discoveries. The woman entered, pushing her sunglasses higher as her eyes adjusted to the gloom. Warm hazel orbs connected with Carmen's. "Roberto Rodriguez's daughter?" "Carmen, I presume." Carmen's breath hitched. "How could she know? Who are you?" "Elena Vargas," the woman replied, her voice a soothing balm. "I was a friend of your father." "A friend?" Roberto had never breathed a word of any Elena. Carmen had always envisioned his life as confined to this dusty outpost and the occasional hushed phone conversation. This refined woman seemed alien to the oil-stained world Carmen inhabited. Elena moved further inside, her gaze skimming over shelves laden with stale chips and obsolete maps. "He spoke of you often, of you and your daughters. He was immensely proud." Carmen's defenses softened a fraction. It was difficult to reconcile this image, proud, communicative, with the reticent man she knew. He had a funny way of showing it. A wistful smile tolked Elena's lips. Roberto wasn't one for grand gestures, but his caring ran deep. Expressing it, that was his challenge. She paused, her gaze drawn to a time-worn photo of a younger Carmen, pinned to the register. He kept that there for years. A knot tightened in Carmen's throat. She reached out to trace the yellowed edges. "He did," Elena affirmed with a nod. "I knew him a long while. He was a good man. Complex, certainly, but good." She hesitated before adding, "This must be an agonizing time, losing him so suddenly and now burdened with all of this." She indicated the cluttered station. Carmen sighed, raking her fingers through already chaotic hair. "You have no idea." "Perhaps I do," Elena murmured. "I know he left you this place, and I imagine you're grappling with what to do next." Suspicion narrowed Carmen's eyes. This was hitting too close to home. "Just what do you know, Elena?" "Enough to recognize you could use a hand," Elena countered, her tone retaining its gentleness, yet laced with resolve. "I assisted Roberto here, now and then, mostly managing the accounts, inventory, things of that nature. I understand this business. In this town." Carmen pondered. She was desperate for help. The gas station was an unholy mess, and she felt submerged in paperwork and unfamiliar responsibilities. Yet trusting a stranger, particularly one claiming a connection to her father and possessing unsettling knowledge, felt dangerous. "Why offer to help? What do you want?" Carmen challenged, her voice sharp with distrust. "You owe me nothing." Elena's expression softened. "I'm indebted to Roberto. He helped me once, long ago, when I was most vulnerable. This is my way of settling that account." She paused, adding, "Besides, I'd hate to witness this place fall into the wrong hands." That sparked Carmen's curiosity. "What do you mean, wrong hands?" A flicker of hesitation crossed Elena's face as she glanced towards the window. "This gas station, it's more than just a gas station, Carmen. It carries a legacy, and some would prefer it vanished." Carmen's thoughts spiraled. What made this place so vital? The concealed tools, the enigmatic ledger, the CIA link, and now this woman, alluding to veiled perils. "Look," Elena pressed, "I don't expect blind faith. Just grant me a chance. Let me demonstrate what I can offer. I can help streamline this place, negotiate with suppliers, even tackle some repairs. If, after a week, you decide my help is unnecessary, I'll leave." No questions asked. Carmen gnawed her lip, weighing the possibilities. She felt overwhelmed, drained, and frankly frightened. Elena's proposition was appealing, but the specter of betrayal loomed large. "All right," Carmen conceded, her voice barely audible. "1 week. But I'm watching you, Elena. Every step." A genuine, heartening smile lit Elena's features, crinkling the corners of her eyes. "Fair enough. Now, about that cash register." She approached the counter, her movements economical and assured. "Let's see if we can coax this thing back to life. I've witnessed Roberto resolve this exact issue countless times." As Elena began dissecting the tangled wires, Carmen observed her, her mind in turmoil. She suspected her life, already upended by her father's demise, was about to become infinitely more complex. Yet for the first time since setting foot in this place, a fragile ember of hope flickered within her. Perhaps, just perhaps, she wasn't entirely alone in this. And with Elena's guidance, she might finally decipher the secrets her father had guarded so fiercely. The coded message. Sunbeams, thick with swirling particles, knifed through the grime-coated windows of Roberto's domain. Carmen exhaled, the pervasive aroma of stale coffee and engine grease a constant companion. Hours bled into one another as she sifted through the remnants of a life that felt both familiar and utterly foreign. Each tossed invoice, each time-worn photograph, was like brushing away layers of earth from a buried past. Elena, meanwhile, managed the gas station with an unnerving aptitude, her efficiency a sharp contrast to the chaos Carmen felt inside. A persistent unease coiled within her as she observed Elena, though even she had to concede. The probationary period unfolded without a hitch. Gas flowed, shelves were full, and for the first time since inheriting this legacy, Carmen wasn't merely staving off disaster. She tackled the final corner, a dim recess behind a hulking steel cabinet. Stagnant air clung to the space, thick with undisturbed grit. As she wrestled the cabinet free, an anomaly caught her eye. The wall paneling wasn't aligned, a subtle indentation, its perimeter traced by faint shadows, betrayed its secret. Fingers tracing the surface found only smooth, unyielding wood. Frustration sharpened her resolve. From a toolbox, now permanently stationed in the office, she retrieved a flathead screwdriver. With gentle pressure, she explored the panel's edges, seeking purchase. At the bottom, the screwdriver encountered a hairline crack, then slipped into a shallow groove. A soft click, like a whispered secret, and the panel yielded inward. Her pulse quickened. A small, rectangular space lay hidden. Inside, cushioned by threadbare velvet, rested a strongbox. Cigar box-sized, crafted from dull, gunmetal steel, devoid of visible hinges or locks. Carmen paused. This was different. Not like the mundane clutter she dismissed. This felt clandestine, deliberately concealed. A secret her father had guarded. She hefted the box, its weight surprising. Back at the desk, she scrutinized it. The metal was cold, unyielding. With renewed purpose, she wedged the screwdriver into the seam, where lid met base. The metal protested with a groan, but after a protracted moment of tension, the lid popped free. Within, atop another layer of faded velvet, lay a single slip of paper. Not a document, not a letter, nothing readily identifiable. A small, cream-colored square, densely covered in a labyrinth of numbers and symbols. Carmen's brow furrowed. A code, perhaps? A prickle of apprehension spread through her. This was more than old debts or forgotten transactions. It reeked of something significant, a connection to a shadowy realm she couldn't comprehend. She lifted the paper, its rough texture against her skin. A chaotic array of numerals, letters, and bizarre geometric shapes arranged in no discernible order. An indecipherable language. Snapping photos with her phone. One of the code, another of the box, and its hiding place. She knew she needed help. But who to trust? Elena? The thought surfaced, only to be dismissed. Too composed, too polished. An unsettling air of competence surrounded her. Besides, Elena might already know, might even be searching. Her sister, Sophia? No. Sophia would dissolve in a panic, urging her to sell, to escape. Marco? He'd see only opportunity for profit. She was alone in this. Replacing the coded message, she closed the box. It slid back into its recess, the panel clicking shut, almost flawlessly concealing the secret. The cabinet was shoved back, obscuring the hiding place. Back at her desk, Carmen zoomed in on the code. Numbers grouped in fives, separated by dashes. Varied symbols, circles, squares, triangles, some dotted, others bisected. A complex puzzle, utterly baffling. Then, a realization dawned. Her father was meticulous. He wouldn't create a code without a key. Hidden among his possessions, the means to decipher this message must exist. A surge of determination coursed through her. She wouldn't be cowed. She'd find the key, unlock the secrets, finally understand her father's truth. Gazing around the cluttered space, a chilling thought invaded her mind. What if the key wasn't here? What if it lay elsewhere? In a place of danger? Twilight painted long shadows across the room. Carmen shivered, despite the lingering heat. A sense of being observed prickled her skin. She glanced toward the window. Elena stood outside, engaging a customer at the pumps. Their words were lost behind the glass. Yet Carmen couldn't shake the feeling that Elena was watching her as well. Waiting, Carmen knew one thing. She was embroiled in a dangerous game, the stakes far higher than she could have imagined. And time was slipping away. Pressure to sell. The overhead bell chimed, a discordant note against the apprehension twisting in Carmen's gut. She looked up from the inventory, a precarious tower of invoices threatening to spill onto the counter. Sophia and Ricardo. Their presence hadn't graced the station since the will's grim recitation, and their saccharine smiles possessed all the sincerity of the plastic flora Elena had inexplicably adorned the pumps with. "Carmen, dear, how are you managing?" Sophia's voice oozed concern, though her gaze remained cool. As usual, Ricardo lingered in her shadow, his eyes scanning the station, assessing its worth. "I'm all right, Sofa." Swamped. Carmen retorted, the words sharper than intended. She tightened her grip on the pen, the plastic biting into her hand. "What brings you by?" Sophia's smile broadened, a touch too wide. "We were just thinking of you. This place. It must be quite a burden alone. We wondered if you were in need of assistance." Ricardo emitted a dry cough. "Yes, anything at all. We're family, Carmen." Carmen arched a skeptical brow. Indeed, the last time she'd sought their aid, they'd been mysteriously unreachable. "Look," Sophia pressed, her tone gentler. "Operating a business like this, it's demanding. The hours, the upkeep, and frankly, this place isn't exactly a cash cow." "It's improving," Carmen countered, recalling Elena's relentless drive. The station was cleaner, better stocked, and strangely, drawing more patrons. Ricardo advanced, his forced cordiality evaporating. "Carmen, be practical. This isn't some treasure trove. It's a faded gas station in the back of beyond. We're prepared to present a reasonable offer. Accept it and move on. You and the girls could use the funds." A reasonable offer? Carmen internally scoffed. She hadn't even begun to gauge the station's true worth. "I'm not interested in selling," she stated, her voice steady. Sophia sighed, a theatrical sound of exasperation. "Carmen, don't be difficult. We're trying to assist you. We've secured an appraisal. It's not worth much, truly, but we're prepared to offer 75,000. 75,000? For a property of this size, in this location? It was an insulting sum. Even with her rudimentary business acumen, she understood that. Suspicion coiled in her stomach. Why the haste? That's gracious, she replied, carefully choosing her words. But I'm not selling. I'm still settling affairs. She needed time. Time to crack the code, to understand her father's entanglements. Ricardo's face reddened. Settling affairs? What is there to settle? It's a gas station, Carmen. We're offering you an escape, a chance for a new beginning. I am beginning anew, Carmen countered, her voice firming. Right here. Sophia's composure finally fractured. You're being absurd. You know nothing about running a business. You'll be insolvent in 6 months. Take the money and be done with it. Perhaps, Carmen said, meeting Sophia's gaze head-on. Or perhaps I'll defy your expectations. She leaned in, her voice a low murmur. Tell me, Sophia, what makes you so certain about this place's value? Sophia's eyes darted, betraying her surprise. What are you implying? Don't feign ignorance. You're pressuring me too much, offering too little. There's something more to this, isn't there? Carmen challenged. Ricardo stepped between them, his face regaining its mask of forced composure. Carmen, your imagination is running wild. We simply desire what's best for you. If you truly cared, you would have reached out after Dad passed, instead of appearing with a derisory offer, Carmen snapped. The air in the small office vibrated with tension. Sophia began to speak, but Ricardo silenced her with a sharp glare. We should leave, he said, taking Sophia's arm. Carmen requires time to contemplate. He offered Carmen a strained, disingenuous smile. We'll be in touch. They departed, the bell above the door jangling with mocking glee as they exited. Carmen watched them go, her mind reeling. She was certain. They knew something about her father, about the gas station, something compelling them to acquire it. She picked up the phone, her fingers trembling slightly. She needed to confide in someone trustworthy. But who? Elena was an enigma, helpful yet unsettling. She recalled the coded message, the concealed strongbox. She needed to locate the key, and quickly. She dialed a number, an old high school friend, Miguel, a cop. Years had passed since their last conversation, but she remembered him as being decent and steadfast. Miguel? It's Carmen Rodriguez. Yes, it's been a while. Listen, I need a favor. As she spoke, she glanced out the window. A dark sedan sat parked across the street, its tinted windows reflecting the afternoon light. She couldn't discern the occupants, but she suspected she knew. She lowered her voice, a shiver snaking down her spine. This was no longer just about a gas station. This concerned something far larger, something perilous. And she was ensnared in the center. Later that evening, after tucking the girls into bed, Carmen returned to the storage room, the pungent odors of motor oil and dust thick in the air. The strongbox rested on the workbench, a silent dare. She traced its cool, metallic surface, seeking any indication, any concealed mechanism. She retrieved the coded message, the jumbled script mocking her. She needed to decipher it. It held the key to everything. She thought of her father, a man shrouded in mystery, a man she barely knew. Was he protecting her, or had he placed her in harm's way? She didn't know, but she was determined to discover the truth. For herself, for her daughters, she had to unveil the secrets, regardless of the consequences. She picked up a wrench, its weight reassuring in her hand. She might lack expertise in managing a gas station, but she knew how to defend herself, and she was prepared to fight for what was rightfully hers. Decoding the past. The hum of Elena's contraption sliced through the gas station's usual din. A medusa of wires connected her laptop to what resembled a short-wave radio mated with a high-tech adding machine. Carmen's gut clenched with each passing second. Elena, forehead creased in intense focus, hammered at the keys, fingers a blur against the glowing plastic. Almost there, she breathed, eyes riveted to the screen. The cryptic inscription, painstakingly transcribed from the back of the aged photo, dominated the display, a meaningless scramble of symbols to Carmen. Hours had bled by. Carmen had feebly attempted to find purchase in the mundane, polishing the already gleaming counter, rearranging the candy bars, even skimming ancient repair manuals. Yet, her attention kept snapping back to Elena, to the illuminated screen, to the promise of revelations buried within that coded mess. At last, Elena sagged back, exhaling a relieved sigh. Got it. Carmen's breath hitched. What does it say? Elena pivoted the laptop, revealing a slab of text. Initially opaque, coherent phrases gradually coalesced from the digital jumble as Carmen scanned the screen. Project Nightingale operational since 1988. Filling station is primary relay point. Subterranean ingress secured. Assets in place across all sectors. Contingency Alpha activated post-Roberto's impairment. Failsafe fund transfer protocol engaged. Standby for commands. Carmen blinked, reeling. Project Nightingale? Relay point? What is any of this? Ashado darkened Elena's face. Your father was more than a proprietor, Carmen. He was a highly skilled operative. Operative? For who? The CIA. The word detonated in the air, a stunning impossibility. Carmen slumped into the chair opposite Elena, the disclosure hitting her with brute force. Her father? A company man? The guy who wrestled with leaky plumbing, who perpetually reeked of motor oil and dime store stogies, whose checkbook was a perpetual disaster zone. That's not possible, Carmen choked out, shaking her head as if to dislodge the thought. Dad sold tires and topped off tanks. He griped about property taxes and cheered on the home team. He wasn't. Jason Bourne. Elena offered a wan, sad smile. Appearances deceive. Roberto was remarkable at masking his true self. He maintained his facade perfectly. But the gas station? Carmen gestured around the cramped, cluttered space. You're saying this whole place was a cover? Precisely. Project Nightingale was a clandestine operation. This wasn't just a place for road trippers. It was a nexus, a staging ground. The veiled language, the curiously ordinary patrons, the midnight shipments, they all served a purpose. Carmen's gaze locked onto a threadbare section of flooring hidden beneath a ragged rug. Subterranean ingress? Elena gave a confirming nod. The notice alludes to a secured subterranean ingress, likely a concealed passage, a cellar under the gas station. The ramifications crashed over Carmen. The station wasn't a mere inheritance. It was a bequest of secrets, a gateway to a life she never suspected existed. Her father's life. A life erected on subterfuge and buried agendas. But why? Why didn't he confide in me? A tremor ran through Carmen's voice. A surge of ire, mingling with bewilderment, threatened to engulf her. All these years, she'd relegated her dad to the status of simple, quotidian man. Now, she had to reckon with this hidden existence, the antithesis of simple, the definition of extraordinary. He was safeguarding you, Carmen, Elena said gently, her eyes pools of empathy. The less you had knowledge of, the more safe you were. He existed in a world of peril. Unveiling his identity would have endangered you and your daughters. Carmen squeezed her eyes shut, striving to reconcile the patriarch she cherished with the agent Elena painted. The pieces refused to join. The recollection of her father bandaging her childhood wounds, reciting her bedtime stories, began to dissolve against the backdrop of hush-hush rendezvous and covert maneuvers. The message also references a fail-safe fund transfer protocol. Elena continued, breaking the silence. It indicates your father anticipated this event. There's a set-aside account somewhere, likely holding a considerable sum. 200 million, Sophia had declared. The number bounced in Carmen's head. It seemed a touch more conceivable now. And contingency alpha? Carmen's voice was barely audible. What does it entail? Elena hesitated. It's tough to pronounce with certainty absent the full scope of Project Nightingale. But contingency protocols are typically established to guarantee the continuation of any operation, especially in the wake of an operative's demise or incapacitation. Such a protocol could touch on a wide range of issues, from activating sleeper agents to securing classified intelligence. So what next? Carmen queried, feeling untethered. What am I supposed to do with all of this? Elena fixed her with a resolute gaze. That choice is entirely yours, Carmen. You can simply turn away, liquidate the gas station, and endeavor to forget all of this. Or you can embrace your father's legacy, bring to light the truth buried within Project Nightingale, and determine what to do with the information and the money he bequeathed. Carmen surveyed the modest office at the dust-laden shelving, the time-worn posters, the dilapidated furniture. This locality, this seemingly mundane gas station, sheltered a secret, a perilous truth with the capacity to upend her existence. She thought of her daughters, of their prospects, of her opportunity to furnish them with a reality she was never granted. She thought of her father, of the sacrifices he willingly made, of the secrets he diligently guarded. I need a minute to process, she said finally, her voice unstable. Elena offered a look that made her feel understood. Of course, but exercise vigilance, Carmen. Now that we've deciphered the dispatch, others may seek to know what you know. You're no longer simply the daughter of the gas station owner. You're now part of something markedly larger, markedly more menacing. As Elena powered down her equipment, Carmen stepped outside, the crisp, evening air a gracious salve to the stifling environment of the office. She fixed her gaze on the gas station, awash in the pale radiance of the street lamps. It was no longer the crumbling, unremarkable establishment she had inherited. It was a vault of enigmas, a passage to a veiled world, a testament to the dual nature of a man she believed she understood. The weight of her father's legacy settled upon her shoulders, heavy and undeniable. She had a choice to navigate, a path to carve. And for the first time since her father's passing, Carmen felt a flicker of something other than fear, a spark of resolve, a sense of objective. She wouldn't permit her father's secrets to dictate her path. She would unearth the truth, defend her family, and ultimately define her own life. Hidden fortunes. Dust motes danced in the weak light, filtering through the grime-coated windows, the air thick with the ghost of gasoline and stale Joe. Elena, leaning against the counter's worn edge, began, her tone measured. Your father demanded precision. Each action, each object, served a specific design. A cold dread coiled in Carmen's gut. Design. A word weighty with unspoken history, with a nagging feeling of being an afterthought in his calculations. A forgotten obligation eclipsed by something. Perhaps she was about to learn what. Elena's sweep of her hand encompassed the cluttered space. This station wasn't just a pit stop. It functioned as a channel. Carmen's brow furrowed. A channel for what exactly? A brief, sad smile flickered across Elena's face. For numerous things. Primarily, though, for laundering funds. Project Nightingale required resources beyond the books. Pieces clicked into place, forming a disquieting mosaic. Roberto, habitually unreliable and distant, a linchpin in a clandestine operation, with this dilapidated station at its epicenter. He exploited the existing structure. Elena continued, moving toward a humming server rack tucked into a forgotten corner of the back room, a space Carmen had never even registered. To build a shadow system. Encrypted ledgers, phantom accounts, the works. Think of it as a subterranean vault, brazenly on display. Following, Carmen felt her thoughts spin. But how? This place looks like it belongs in a museum. Elena chuckled, a dry, mirthless sound. Appearances deceive. Your father was a chameleon. He modernized the system in increments, using obsolete tech to mask its capabilities. Resourceful, really. From her bag, Elena produced a slim, metallic device, a bespoke USB drive. This, she announced, holding it aloft, is the linchpin. Plugging it in, the room thrummed louder as cascading lines of code swam across the monitor. The screen stabilized, revealing a complex interface brimming with alien symbols. Here we are, Elena murmured, her fingers dancing across the keyboard. The gateway to your father's hidden hoard. Spellbound, Carmen watched Elena work. The sheer intricacy was astounding, akin to peering into the workings of some impossible machine. The funds are scattered, Elena explained, forehead creased in concentration. Offshore havens, dummy corporations. A veritable maze. Finally, Elena stilled her hands. The screen now displayed a singular, astonishing sum. Carmen inhaled sharply. There's no way. Elena offered a grim nod. $200 million. Give or take a few. The words reverberated within Carmen's mind, echoing off the peeling paint, a cruel mockery of the meager existence she'd always known, concealed within this crumbling facade. Where did it originate? She managed, struggling to grasp the magnitude. Project Nightingale, Elena reiterated. In related endeavors. Carmen swallowed hard. This transcended mere finance. It was about a life she'd never understood, veiled in secrecy and peril. What do I do with it? She asked, her voice barely audible. Elena regarded her. Sympathy mingled with warning in her gaze. That, Carmen, falls entirely to you. You can walk away, liquidate the property, and vanish with the wealth. Or you can embrace your father's inheritance and put it towards other ends. Carmen surveyed the cramped, chaotic space, the humming machine, the dusty shelves laden with relics. This place, seemingly insignificant, was the portal to his history and, possibly, her destiny. The weight of the choice was crushing. She had perpetually fought to make ends meet, to provide security for her girls. This sum could alter everything, but came with strings, perhaps tauter than she could bear. What kind of other ends? She inquired, dread tightening its grip. Elena hesitated, then spoke carefully. Let's just say that Project Nightingale didn't conclude with your father's demise. There remain loose threads. A shiver snaked down Carmen's spine. Ominous, dangerous threads. The thought of her daughters flashed through her mind, their innocent joy. Could she jeopardize them for a fortune she hadn't toiled for? An inheritance shrouded in mystery? She remained uncertain. All she knew was that her life had veered sharply off course, leaving her at a precipice. The server's hum permeated the silence, an insistent reminder of the clandestine riches and perilous secrets lurking beneath the unassuming facade. Carmen closed her eyes, inhaled deeply, and braced herself to face the truth, whatever it revealed. The station, once a monument to his neglect, was now the vestibule to her past and a possible future. A future of uncertain value, unsettling events. Sleep offered no refuge to Carmen. Elena's revelations churned within her. Project Nightingale, 200 million, a legacy woven with secrets and peril. She thrashed, the familiar image of her father twisting into a spectral figure entangled in an unfathomable world. Morning's pallid light did little to soothe her disquiet. She compelled herself from bed, prepared breakfast for Sophia and Isabella, and ferried them to school, her smile a fragile mask. Back at the filling station, she sought solace in the monotonous, arranging merchandise, scrubbing toilets. Anything to avert confronting the momentous choice looming over her. Approaching her car for a supply run, she spotted it, disaster rendered in flattened rubber. All four tires lay listless, like prick bladders. A sour wave of dread crested within her. More than just a leak, they were deliberately lacerated. Carmen knelt, a trembling hand tracing the wounds in the rubber. This wasn't random mischief. It was a calculated act. A declaration. Her pulse hammered. Could this be tethered to Project Nightingale? A warning shot? She phoned for a tow, and then Elena. Someone butchered my tires. Carmen choked, her voice strained. A beat of silence resonated on the line. Are you unharmed, Carmen? Were you attacked? I'm okay, but... Elena, this screams connection. As if someone wants to intimidate me. It's plausible, Elena conceded. Exercise extreme caution, Carmen. I'll investigate. The tow truck lumbered in, its driver, a stout fellow with a grandiose mustache, offering a commiserating grunt. Tough break, lady. Looks like someone's got a bone to pick with you. Carmen mustered a wan smile, the weight of Elena's caution pressing down. She arranged for her car's transport to a nearby garage. Stranded without transportation, she felt exposed, defenseless. The day dissolved into a haze of anxiety and feigned normalcy. She attended to patrons, processed transactions, even conquered the perpetually recalcitrant ice machine. Yet beneath the surface, fear's tremor persisted. Every unfamiliar vehicle entering the lot, every stranger lingering too long, sent an electric jolt of paranoia through her. As twilight descended, daubing the heavens with fiery hues, the fluorescent lights inside the station sputtered erratically. One moment ablaze, the next dimmed to a jaundiced glow, then back again. The mercurial shifts cast elongated, sinuous shadows that seemed to dance and contort in her peripheral vision. Fantastic, she mumbled, seizing her toolbox. Electrical gremlins were precisely what she didn't need. She inspected the breaker panel, toggled a few switches, but the flicker persisted. Exasperated, she replaced bulbs, but even with fresh filaments, the lights continued their unsettling ballet. It felt as though the station itself was agitated, restless. A customer, a youth with a ball cap shadowing his features, approached the register. He purchased cigarettes, his gaze skittering around the interior, never quite locking with Carmen's. As he exited, he hesitated at the threshold, casting a backward glance she couldn't quite interpret. Curiosity? Sympathy? Or something far more ominous? Later, as Carmen prepared to close up, a black sedan with darkly tinted windows idled across the street. It registered as an anomaly. This wasn't a high-traffic area, and parking there was unusual. She observed as the driver, a figure with a shaved head concealed by sunglasses despite the gloom, fixed his gaze directly upon the gas station. A shiver traced her spine. She swiftly secured the doors, her heart drumming a frantic rhythm. The sedan remained stationed across the way for what seemed an age, the man's unwavering stare a palpable force. Finally, with a gravelly screech, it accelerated away, leaving Carmen unnerved and breathless. She contacted Elena again, her voice a mere thread of sound. There was a car, parked across the street. Someone was watching the station. Did you record the plate number? Elena pressed, her tone urgent. No, it was too dim. The windows were tinted. All right, Carmen. Remain indoors. Secure all entry points. I'm dispatching someone to watch over you tonight. Someone? Who? A friend, Elena replied, her tone brooking no argument. Just have faith. Carmen disconnected, her hand trembling. Trust, a scarce commodity in her current reality. She rechecked the locks, lowered the blinds, and retreated to the cramped back office, where she huddled in a chair, her gaze riveted to the security monitor. The night stretched on, an agonizing parade of shadows and silence. Each creak of the structure, each rustle of foliage outside, sent a jolt of trepidation through her. She scarcely dared breathe, convinced any sound would expose her. As dawn finally painted the sky with a weak, watery light, the tension in Carmen's frame began to dissipate. The gas station remained intact. She was unharmed. Yet, the disquieting events of the preceding hours had left an indelible mark, a chilling intimation that she was no longer simply a single mother managing a gas station. She was now a pawn in a perilous game, and someone, somewhere, intended for her to recognize it. Sabotage and repair. The raw scent of gasoline assaulted Carmen's nostrils, a harsher sting than usual on the morning air. She choked back a cough, waving a hand as she approached pump 3, an unease prickling her skin. The familiar gas station, her inheritance, felt subtly askew. A glint caught her eye, a thin, shimmering trail weaving down the pump's flank, culminating in a spreading pool on the fractured asphalt. A cold fist squeezed her heart. This wasn't mere leakage, it was malice. The fuel line had been deliberately violated. She bolted for the emergency shutoff, her pulse a frantic drum against her ribs. The fumes intensified a biting assault. "Elena!" she yelled, her voice tight with rising panic. "Get out here now!" Elena materialized, her dark eyes instantly dissecting the scene. She moved with quiet purpose, her gaze laser-focused. "Sabotage," she declared, her tone devoid of inflection. "No question." Carmen gestured to the spreading sheen. "Someone could have been hurt. This place could have gone up in smoke." A grim nod was Elena's only response. "We inspect every other pump, then contact the authorities." As they began their rounds, Carmen's gaze drifted to the neglected access road leading from the station's rear. A flash of light, the chrome gleam of a bumper, undeniably familiar, betrayed a vehicle lurking there. Ricardo's dilapidated pickup. She gripped Elena's arm, pointing. "That's my brother's ride. He was here last night, pestering me about the pumps. He was off." Elena followed her line of sight, her expression hardening to flint. "Ricardo Rodriguez. He's complicit." A wave of sickness rolled through Carmen. Her own flesh and blood, attempting to ruin her livelihood? The betrayal was a jagged blade twisting in her gut. All the platitudes about family and support. Ute fabrication. I can't believe he'd stoop this low. Carmen breathed, her voice thick with emotion. "Believe it," Elena countered, her tone steely. "People are capable of anything when greed takes hold. Family included." They concluded their inspection, discovering another pump with a fuel line deliberately compromised. The intent was clear, to cripple the station, even at the cost of potential lives. "We fixed this," Carmen stated, resolve hardening her features. "We can't afford to wait for the law. We need to get the station running." Elena nodded, a flicker of something akin to determination in her eyes. "I know my way around engines. Let's get our hands dirty." The following hours dissolved into a frantic ballet of wrenches, tightened bolts, and the reeking perfume of spilled fuel. Elena, surprisingly adept, revealed a deep well of mechanical knowledge. She patiently guided Carmen through the repairs, explaining the fuel system's nuances. Carmen, a quick study, tapped into a reservoir of resourcefulness. Working in concert, a fragile connection began to blossom. Elena, usually reserved, offered glimpses into her past, tales of far-flung travels, diverse occupations, and a clear respect for Roberto, Carmen's late father. "He was a complex man," Elena commented, cinching a bolt on pump 3. "But his moral compass always pointed true north. He championed what was right, regardless of the cost." Carmen paused, wiping grime from her forehead. "I barely knew him. He was always aloof, absent." Elena sighed softly. "He had his reasons. He sought to shelter you, Carmen, from a reality you didn't comprehend." "Protect me by abandoning me?" Carmen challenged, a bitter edge to her voice. "By leaving me to fend for myself." Elena hesitated, her gaze fixed on the fuel line, her expression a closed book. "Sometimes," she finally said, "the greatest protection lies in distance. Keeping someone beyond the reach of danger." Carmen scoffed. "A convenient rationalization." "Perhaps," Elena conceded, "but it holds truth. Your father bore burdens you can scarcely imagine, Carmen, and he was determined you wouldn't share their weight." As dusk painted long shadows across the station, they completed the repairs. The pumps functioned once more, the threat of catastrophe averted. Carmen leaned against pump 3, bone-weary yet strangely invigorated. "I'm still in disbelief," she admitted, a note of pride coloring her tone. Elena offered a rare, genuine smile that softened her stern face. "You possess more fortitude than you believe, Carmen. You inherited your father's mettle." "Metal doesn't pay the bills," Carmen muttered, but a sense of accomplishment resonated within her. She'd stared down a crisis and emerged victorious. With Elena's help, she had not only mended the damage, but also unearthed a hidden wellspring of inner strength. The previous night's unease persisted, a nagging undercurrent. Her eyes darted towards the road, half expecting Ricardo's truck to materialize from a gloom. He remained a loose end, a threat requiring immediate attention. She couldn't allow him to escape accountability. "Elena," she said, her voice taking on a steely edge. "I need to confront my brother." Elena nodded, her gaze reflecting understanding. "I'll accompany you." As they headed towards the station office, a renewed sense of purpose surged through Carmen. No longer just a struggling single mother, she was a survivor, a warrior, and she would defend what was rightfully hers against anyone, even her own kin. Rival agencies. The reek of scorched rubber still permeated the air, a grim echo of Ricardo's handiwork. Carmen attacked the stubborn grease marring her jeans, the familiar ache in her back, a constant hum against the rising tide of her apprehension. Elena, by contrast, appeared impervious, absorbed in manipulating the aged shortwave in Roberto's cramped office, a deep crease etched between her brows. "Anything," Carmen called, leaning into the doorway. A moment stretched taut before Elena responded, her focus absolute. She tweaked the antenna. A feeble rasp filled the space before being shredded by a burst of static. Then, a staccato pulse of rapid beeps, like a desperate telegraph key, burst from the speaker. Elena's fingers danced across a concealed keypad beneath the radio. The beeping ceased. "Intercepted transmission," she stated, her voice tight with contained urgency. "Encrypted but traceable." "Traceable to what?" Carmen pressed, her unease solidifying. Elena pivoted, her gaze, normally placid, now sparked with something unreadable. Alarm, perhaps? "To trouble. The kind that haunted your father." She tapped a series of commands into a time-worn laptop that had escaped Carmen's notice until now. The screen sputtered to life, resolving into lines of jumbled characters. With nimble expertise, Elena deciphered the message. The words that blossomed on the screen were chillingly direct. "Project Nightingale compromised. Asset termination confirmed. Retrieval team en route. Secure location. Neutralize all threats." A frigid tendril snaked up Carmen's spine. What is that supposed to mean? Asset termination. "Dad," Elena offered a curt nod. "Roberto." And secure location, this station. They're aware of his demise and his secrets. Who is they? The question escaped Carmen in a near whisper. Elena sighed, raking a hand through her cropped, dark hair. "That, Carmen, is the crux of it. Your father wasn't beholden to one master. He had affiliations. Suffice to say, other outfits, other powers hold a vested interest in Roberto's accomplishments and what he concealed within these walls. Competing agencies? Carmen echoed, the notion outlandish and terrifying. This wasn't fiction. This was her life, her livelihood, her daughter's future. In essence, yes. Picture it as an aggressive takeover. They covet what Roberto possessed, and morality won't factor into their acquisition of it. Elena's stare was unwavering, resolute. They're coming to seize everything. Carmen's thoughts spun. How much time do we have? Elena consulted the decrypted message once more. Judging by the transmission and the probable origin point, 12 hours. Give or take. They'll prioritize speed, aiming to secure their prize before rivals can interfere. 12 hours. An impossible deadline. A wave of panic threatened to engulf Carmen. Her daughters demanded protection. Her home demanded defense. But against a force of trained operatives, backed by an entire agency, despair loomed. What can we do? She breathed, her voice fragile. Elena's expression hardened into one of fierce determination. We prepare. We exploit every advantage Roberto secreted away. And we stand our ground. Carmen scanned the dusty, disorganized office. Advantages? Only a defunct radio, a stack of antiquated maps, and a legacy of her father's shrouded past. What advantages? She pressed, her tone edged with desperation. Elena moved towards a section of wall concealed behind a tattered world map. She depressed a cryptic sequence of bricks. A panel audibly clicked, then slid aside, revealing a cramped, poorly illuminated corridor. Roberto wasn't simply dispensing fuel and mending tires, Elena said, a ghost of a smile playing on her lips. He foresaw this eventuality. Carmen trailed Elena into the passage, the temperature dropping noticeably, the air thick with the scent of dust and metallic tang. The corridor opened into a small, fortified chamber. Inside, arrayed on shelves, were containers overflowing with weaponry. Handguns, rifles, ammunition, all meticulously maintained. Carmen could only gape, dumbstruck. Dad, he had an arsenal? He was a pragmatist, Elena replied, already assessing a sleek pistol. He appreciated the merits of preparedness. She released the magazine, examined the chamber, then reseated it with a decisive click. Nausea chant and comments gut. This wasn't her element. She was a waitress, a mother, not some gun-wielding commando. Yet, witnessing Elena's calm, focused resolve, she knew retreat was not an option. Not now. I'm clueless about any of this, Carmen confessed, her voice trembling despite her efforts. Elena turned, her gaze softening incrementally. I'm not, and I'll instruct you. You're a quick study, Carmen. Roberto's lineage flows through your veins. It's time to embrace it. The ensuing hours dissolved into a frenzied montage. Elena, with unwavering patience, imparted the rudiments of firearm handling, safety protocols, and close-quarters combat. Carmen, her hands initially unsteady, gradually gained assurance, her movements becoming more coordinated, more purposeful. The weight of the pistol felt alien, discordant, yet undeniably empowering. They reinforced the doors and windows, employing thick steel plates Roberto had stashed within the hidden passage. They installed makeshift tripwires and motion detectors around the perimeter, utilizing scavenged components from the station's defunct security system. Elena operated with quiet efficiency, each action precise and deliberate. She was a soldier, Carmen realized with stark clarity. As dusk descended, painting the desert expanse in long, stark shadows, they assumed their positions within the gas station. Carmen, armed with a pistol and a nascent understanding of its capabilities, monitored the road, her heart hammering a frantic rhythm against her ribs. Elena, perched on the roof with a rifle, surveyed the horizon. The silence was suffocating, punctuated only by the occasional sigh of the wind. Carmen's thoughts drifted to her daughters, safely ensconced at her sister's home. Their protection was paramount. Survival was non-negotiable. Hours ticked by with agonizing slowness. Just as Carmen began to entertain the notion of a false alarm, a pair of headlights materialized in the distance, their intensity escalating rapidly as they drew closer. Two black SUVs, advancing at breakneck speed. They're here. Elena's voice crisped in Carmen's earpiece. Remember the contingency. Carmen inhaled deeply, steeling her resolve. This wasn't the life she had envisioned, but it was the life thrust upon her, and she would defend it with every fiber of her being. She would battle for her daughters, for her home, for the legacy her father had bequeathed her, regardless of her initial reluctance. The SUVs executed a screeching stop before the gas station. Doors burst open, and figures spilled out, clad in black tactical gear, weapons brandished. The assault had commenced. The underground bunker. Elena ushered Carmen toward the garage's dim recesses, where the air hung heavy with petroleum and decaying rubber. Your father anticipated everything, Carmen, a planner through and through. Carmen followed, pulse quickening. The cache of weaponry had been a contained jolt. This felt expansive. She swiped perspiration from her brow, the harsh glare of fluorescent tubes reflecting off the polished concrete floor. Elena halted before an unassuming tool chest, its painted surface scarred and nicked. "This is it," she murmured, her voice hushed. "The entrance." Carmen's brow furrowed. "A toolbox? Seriously?" Elena ignored the incredulity. Instead, her fingers traced the cabinet's base, finding and depressing an almost imperceptible join. A subtle click broke the silence as the metal door swung inward, revealing a dark, steel-clad portal. Carmen goggled, rendered momentarily mute. "What in the—" "After you," Elena prompted, gesturing to the opening. With hesitant steps, Carmen crossed the threshold. An unusual chill seeped from the opening, carrying a faint scent of ozone. Elena followed, the tool chest clicking softly shut, enveloping them in shadow. "Hold on." Carmen's voice quivered. "I can't see." A gentle, cerulean glow bloomed from the walls a heartbeat later, revealing a spiraling staircase carved into the earth. Steel grates formed the steps, allowing the faintest hint of light from above. "Motion activated," Elena stated, indicating a tiny, almost invisible sensor in the wall. He wasn't keen on uninvited guests. Tentatively, Carmen descended, the cold metal biting through her shoes. Each step reverberated in the confined shaft. A weight settled on her chest, a growing sense of confinement. How deep did this rabbit hole go? As they progressed, the blue light intensified, clarifying their surroundings. Thick steel plates reinforced the walls, and bundles of cables, like metallic vines, disappeared overhead. The air grew frigid, the metallic tang more pronounced. At last, the staircase opened into a vast, circular chamber. Carmen drew a sharp breath. A full-fledged command center, ripped from the pages of a thriller. Walls were lined with monitor banks, displaying a bewildering array of data, maps, encoded streams, arcane charts. The hushed whir of cooling fans was the room's only voice, a sterile hum in the clinical space. "Welcome to Roberto's bolt hole," Elena announced, a note of pride coloring her tone. Carmen remained rooted to the spot, her mind struggling to reconcile the image before her. It was a leap into an alternate reality, a world far removed from the dusty pumps and the sleepy routine she knew. "What is all this?" she asked, her voice a mere thread. Elena swept her hand across the room. "This was your father's nerve center. He used it for surveillance, intel gathering, mission coordination." Carmen edged forward, her gaze flitting from screen to screen. Satellite feeds, intercepted transmissions, financial transactions danced before her. A chaotic symphony of information, a hidden world beneath the mundane exterior of a roadside stop. One entire wall was consumed by a massive display, a world map peppered with blinking nodes. Elena approached and touched a control. The map zoomed in, focusing on a constellation of lights clustered over Europe. "Your father had fingers everywhere," Elena explained. "He was involved in delicate matters." Carmen stared, a wave of vertigo threatening to overwhelm her. Her father, the simple mechanic, had been a linchpin in a global game of shadows. The implications were staggering. "But why?" she finally managed, turning to Elena. "Why all this? Why keep it a secret?" Elena sighed. "He was a man of secrets, Carmen. He believed he was shielding you, insulating you from the dangers of his life." Carmen shook her head, unconvinced. "Shielding us? By living a fabrication? By constructing a subterranean fortress beneath a gas station?" Elena remained silent, walking to another console and beginning to type. The monitors flickered, resolving into a series of encrypted files. "He left instructions for you," she said, her fingers dancing across the keys. He knew this day might dawn. Carmen watched, her thoughts a whirlwind. What kind of instructions? What was she supposed to do with this? What exactly had he been mixed up in? Elena stopped typing and turned. "He trusted you, Carmen. He believed you were capable." "Capable?" Carmen echoed, a mirthless chuckle escaping her. "I'm a single mother who inherited a gas station from a near stranger. No operativa. I know nothing about this." "You underestimate yourself," Elena countered, her voice unwavering. "His blood runs in your veins. You possess his resilience, his grit." Carmen's gaze swept the room again, taking in the banks of screens, the humming machinery, the encoded data. It was dizzying, frightening. Yet beneath the fear, something stirred. A flicker of curiosity, a nascent sense of purpose. Perhaps she was stronger than she believed. Perhaps she could navigate this labyrinth. Maybe she could unlock her father's past and carve her own destiny in this newly revealed world. "What now?" she asked, her voice gaining strength. Elena smiled, a genuine, reassuring curve of her lips. "Now," she said, "we excavate." She tapped a few more keys. A single file name appeared on one of the monitors. Project Nightingale. This, Elena said, indicating the screen, is our starting point. Carmen inhaled deeply and moved closer, her eyes locked on the enigmatic name. Project Nightingale. What secrets lay buried within? What perils would it unleash? She didn't know, but she was ready to uncover them. The gas station, the armory, the bunker, pieces of a legacy she was only beginning to grasp. A legacy she couldn't escape. Her father's secrets were now her charge, and she wouldn't falter. Not now, not ever. Betrayal and confrontation. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee usually soothed Carmen, but this morning it only exacerbated the frantic drumming in her chest. Project Nightingale. The words haunted her as she filled her mug, her hands betraying a slight tremor. Downstairs, Elena was engrossed in the command center's blueprints, a low murmur escaping her lips as she wrestled with signal jammers and coded transmissions. Carmen, however, felt rooted to the spot. Anything useful? She ventured, stepping into the office, striving for a composure she didn't feel. Elena's gaze lifted, her face etched with worry. Your father's work is meticulous. This is high level, more than a mere pastime, Carmen. It consumed him. Sophia ambled in, rubbing the sleep from her eyes. Morning, everyone. What's with all the commotion? She yawned widely. Commotion? Carmen arched a brow. Try a full-blown existential unraveling. Apparently, Dad lived a double life as some kind of spy. Sophia offered a wan smile. He was always a bit of an enigma. She poured herself coffee, avoiding Carmen's questioning stare. A furrow deepened on Carmen's brow. Sophia had been acting strangely since the discovery, uncharacteristically subdued and distant. It felt wrong. The chime above the gas station door heralded an arrival. I'll get it, Sophia blurted, practically bolting from the room. As the door swung shut behind her, Elena's eyes met Carmen's. Watch her, Carmen. Something's off. Carmen nodded, a cold dread coiling in her stomach. She trusted Elena's intuition. The woman possessed an uncanny sense. But Sophia? Her cousin, practically a sister? The idea felt preposterous. She refocused. Elena, about Nightingale, your take? Elena tapped a long nail on the schematic. Considering the context, it's most likely a person, a valuable asset, a crucial contact, someone key to your father's operations. And the coded instructions lead to a dead drop, a rendezvous point. Just then, the bell transformed from a gentle chime into a discordant shriek as the gas station door splintered inward. Two figures clad in black tactical gear burst inside, weapons leveled. Pia! Freeze! One barked, his voice a digitized snarl. Ice water flooded Carmen's veins. Pia! How could they? Before she could think, Elena propelled her behind the counter, shouting, Get down. Now! Bedlam erupted. Projectiles pinged off metal shelving, sending shards of glass and pools of motor oil across the floor. The sharp tang of gunpowder filled the air. Carmen huddled low, the frantic rhythm of her heart a deafening drumbeat. Her daughters. She had to shield them. Elena, moving with surprising agility, retrieved a shotgun from its hidden niche, another of Roberto's secret stashes, and returned fire. The attackers recoiled, momentarily thrown off balance. Carmen, the security system. Activated. Elena's voice cut through the dense security system. News to her. Carmen's fingers scrabbled against the wall behind the counter, searching blindly for a switch, a lever, anything. Finally, her hand landed on a small, flush panel concealed behind a display of sugary treats. She flipped it. Instantly, the gas station underwent a metamorphosis. Heavy steel shutters crashed down over the windows, sealing the building within a metallic cocoon. Sprinklers sputtered to life, unleashing a deluge of viscous, oily fluid, yet another of Roberto's eccentric security measures. The intruders cursed, struggling for purchase on the slick surface as Elena continued her barrage. How did they find out? Carmen whispered, her voice shaking. Elena didn't respond. Her gaze was fixed on the ruined entrance, her expression a mask of bleak understanding. That's when Carmen saw her. Sophia, standing just outside the demolished doorway, speaking into a cell phone. Her face, drained of color, betrayed raw fear, but her purpose was undeniable. She was directing the assault. The world spun. Sophia? A traitor? Impossible. Sophia? Carmen cried, her voice swallowed by the chaos. Sophia visibly winced, her eyes locking with Carmen's for the briefest instant. A spark of remorse flickered within them, quickly extinguished by a wave of desperate determination. Then, one of the intruders seized Sophia, dragging her behind him. "We've got what we need. Let's move." They vanished into the night, leaving behind a wasteland of destruction. Silence descended, punctuated only by the steady drip of oily rain. Carmen stared at the gaping doorway, her mind reeling in disbelief. Sophia. Betrayal. It felt like a physical wound. Elena lowered the shotgun, her face a study in grim resolve. I knew it. Her behavior was too odd. Who was she talking to? Carmen shook her head, numb. I don't know. But she led them here. She knew about the command center. Everything. Elena cursed under her breath. Damn it. She must have been turned. They got to her somehow. But why? What could they possibly offer? Carmen questioned, the sting of betrayal sharper than any bullet. Elena moved closer, laying a firm hand on Carmen's shoulder. Right now, the motivation is irrelevant. What matters is they know. They know about your father, about Nightingale, about you. The full weight of her father's veiled life, the peril he had unwittingly bequeathed to her and her daughters, crashed down upon Carmen. She had to shield them. She had to unearth what Sophia had revealed, who her puppeteers were, and what they sought. We have to find her, Carmen declared, her voice hardening. We have to find Sophia and uncover who she's working for. And then, her voice trailed off, but Elena understood the unspoken threat. And then, they would retaliate. Redemption and reconciliation. The shriek of tortured rubber sliced the dawn's stillness, a jarring note that even Elena's seasoned senses hadn't anticipated. Ricardo's beloved, battered pickup lurched into the dust-choked lot, halting scant inches from the blackened skeleton of what passed for a command center. He vaulted out, his face a canvas of stark terror, an echo of the childhood fright Carmen remembered when they'd cowered from their father's rages. Carmen, what in God's name? His voice died, his gaze flitting between the smoldering wreckage, Elena's hard-set expression, and settling finally on Carmen. Sophia, she got a hold of me, said there was an issue. Carmen folded her arms, the morning's bite a paltry match for the inferno in her soul. An issue? Your darling Sophia tried to have us turn to ash, Ricardo. That's a shade beyond a mere issue. He recoiled as though struck, color leaching from his face. Killed? No, she wouldn't. His denial lacked force. He surveyed the desolation, the sun catching on shards of twisted metal. What happened? Suffice to say, your cousin owes us an explanation, Elena stated, her tone a low growl. And you need to choose a side, Ricardo. Now. He raked a trembling hand through lank hair. Side? I was in the dark. She claimed that you were involved in something shady, and she was helping to prevent it. His words stumbled, avoiding Carmen's eyes. Carmen snorted. Aiding whom? Herself? Is that what she said about the stash our father hid? The one she was after? Ricardo winced. She insisted it was for all of us, that we were all entitled to it. Carmen felt a leaden weariness settle over her anger. Always the easy path. Always the siren call of instant riches. And you swallowed a whole, didn't you? Down to the barb. He lowered his head. I screwed up, Carmen. Big time. But I can make amends. I want to help. He looked up, desperation burning in his gaze. I know this place inside and out. Every valve, every junction. I can aid you in rebuilding, help you find your footing. Carmen wavered. Trusting Ricardo was a risky proposition, a gamble she wasn't sure she could afford. Yet, she needed him. She needed someone who understood the intricacies of the operation, who could repair the havoc Sophia had unleashed. Fine, she conceded, her tone brittle. But one misstep, Ricardo, and you're gone. Understood. He nodded fiercely, relief washing over his features. Thank you, Carmen. Thank you. I won't fail you. As Ricardo sprang into action, already dissecting the ruins with experienced eyes, another sound shattered the air. The crunch of tires spitting gravel. A glossy black SUV glided into the lot, a plume of dust marking its arrival. Sophia emerged, her designer suit a jarring contrast to the rugged surroundings. Her face, typically serene and polished, was wan and strained. She absorbed the scene, the debris, Ricardo's feverish movements, Elena's watchful stance, and Carmen, her eyes blazing with Arctic fury. The gravity of her actions seemed to strike her like a physical blow. Carmen, she croaked, her voice barely audible. Carmen advanced, closing the space between them. Sophia, explain yourself. The carefully constructed facade shattered. Tears breached her eyes, clouding her vision. I was unaware. I never imagined it would escalate to this extent. Unaware. Carmen's voice resonated, echoing across the ravaged space. You unleashed the agency on us, Sophia. You tried to have us terminated. Just what were you ignorant of? Sophia shook her head, tears cascading down her cheeks. They asserted you were a threat, that you were poised to expose everything, that it constituted a matter of national import. National import? Carmen offered a mirthless laugh, devoid of warmth. This is about greed, Sophia. It always has been. Sophia crumpled to her knees, her composure utterly undone. I merely sought to safeguard the family. I convinced myself I was acting responsibly. Acting responsibly. Carmen knelt beside her, her voice softening marginally. Sophia, the responsible action would have been to confide in me, to place your faith in me. I was petrified, Sophia choked out. I was consumed with fear of forfeiting everything. The wealth, the influence, everything I had painstakingly built. Carmen sighed, the anger seeping away, supplanted by a desolate sorrow. She comprehended Sophia's ambition, her drive. She had observed it in their father, their grandfather. It was a family inheritance, a voracious appetite that could devour everything in its path. Look at the consequence, Sophia, Carmen murmured, gesturing to the devastation surrounding them. You nearly razed everything to the ground, all for a fabrication. Sophia shielded her face with her hands, her body convulsing with sobs. I realize. I destroyed everything. Carmen reached out, tentatively resting a hand on Sophia's shoulder. It's not irreparable, Sophia. It won't be easy, but we can endure this together. Sophia looked up, her eyes red-rimmed and puffy. You could pardon me? Carmen hesitated. Forgiveness was a steep climb, particularly after Sophia's treachery. But they share blood, and despite it all, Carmen still held affection for her cousin. I can't promise complete absolution, Sophia, Carmen conceded, but I'm willing to attempt it. If you're disposed to aid me in unearthing the truth, to reveal whoever lurks in the shadows, then possibly we can find a route forward. Sophia nodded, her sobs receding somewhat. Yes, I'll comply with anything. Just instruct me. Carmen rose, drawing Sophia to her feet. First, you will relay every detail you possess about your collaborators. Every single detail. And subsequently, we will devise a plan to halt them. As Sophia began to speak, her voice shaky yet resolute, Carmen felt a spark of hope ignite within her. The path ahead was certain to be long and treacherous, fraught with peril and uncertainty. But with Ricardo's expertise and Sophia's insights, maybe, just maybe, they could navigate the murky depths of deceit and betrayal. And perhaps, just perhaps, they could reclaim what remained of their family. The aftertaste of ashes persisted, but a fragile seed of recovery had taken root. A new beginning. Black SUVs materialized, a silent bargain struck. No sirens shattered the air, no emergency lights strobed, merely a calculated arrival hinting at immense backing. Figures in charcoal suits, expressions tight and efficient, spread outwards, forming a cordon around the ashen remains of Sophia's failed operation. Ricardo, ashen-faced and trembling, was swiftly escorted into a vehicle. Sophia watched him depart, her face a canvas of conflicting emotions. "They'll see to him," Carmen whispered, her throat raw. Elena affirmed with a nod, her gaze unwavering. "He'll be processed, evaluated, given the opportunity to cooperate." He wasn't entirely complicit. Unspoken tension hung heavy as the CIA team meticulously erased the imprint of their rival's presence. It was a harsh glimpse into Roberto's past life, one to which Carmen was now irrevocably tied. Exhaustion washed over her, yet beneath it, a spark of resolve ignited. "What now?" Carmen inquired, turning from the grim spectacle. The cloying scent of gasoline and burnt rubber permeated everything, a bitter reminder of the recent clash. "Now," Elena stated, a faint smile gracing her lips, "we rebuild brick by brick." The ensuing weeks became a frenetic rush. Insurance assessors came and departed, their faces a mixture of sympathy and shock at the extent of devastation. The community, initially cautious, coalesced around Carmen. Offers of assistance flooded in, volunteers to clear the wreckage, donations of provisions, even a local construction firm offering cost-effective services. Carmen, propelled by restless energy, plunged headfirst into the task. Meetings with contractors, architects, and business strategists filled her days. She spent countless hours studying blueprints, dissecting market analyses, and evaluating project viability. She absorbed Elena's guidance, assimilating her deep knowledge of the industry and its intricacies. The gas station, once emblematic of her father's clandestine life and her own feelings of inadequacy, was poised for a radical transformation. "I envision more than just a refueling stop," Carmen declared to Elena one evening, as they pored over documents on the battered table in the station's miraculously spared office. "I want a hub for the community, a place that offers something more." Elena lifted an eyebrow, a knowing glimmer in her gaze. "And what does that ambitious vision entail, Carmen?" "A convenience market stocked with regionally sourced goods, a coffee bar featuring ethically traded beans, an auto repair shop that delivers honest, affordable service," Carmen articulated, her voice gaining resonance. "A spot where people feel welcome, secure, and appreciated." Elena smiled, a genuine, heartfelt expression. "Roberto would be proud," she affirmed softly. "You're claiming his legacy and imprinting your own mark." The renovation proved extensive. The fire-scar remains were demolished, replaced by a modern, eco-conscious structure. Solar arrays lined the roof, harnessing renewable energy. Rainwater capture systems provided irrigation for the grounds. Old pumps yielded to contemporary, energy-efficient models. Carmen insisted on employing local labor, offering fair compensation and benefits. Partnerships with neighborhood farmers and crafters resulted in a convenience market brimming with regional specialties. She even cultivated a small community garden in the rear, affording residents a space to grow their own produce. As the gas station resurrected, Carmen blossomed. Her posture straightened, her shoulders aligned, her eyes sparkled with self-assurance. She learned to delegate authority, to trust her gut, and to lead with empathy. No longer just Carmen Rodriguez, the struggling waitress. She was Carmen Rodriguez, the entrepreneur, the community figurehead, the woman crafting something meaningful from the embers of the past. One afternoon, as the construction crew applied the finishing touches, Sophia appeared. She lingered at the property line, her expression tentative. Carmen approached, her heart drumming in her chest. The intervening weeks had been a period of fragile truce, a tacit understanding of their shared story and their delicate connection. "He's coping," Sophia offered, her voice barely audible. "Ricardo, they're helping him heal." Carmen confirmed with a nod. Elena briefed me. A lengthy pause stretched between them, laden with unsaid words and unresolved tensions. "I I want to contribute, Sophia finally uttered, her gaze fixed downwards. I realize I erred. I long to make restitution. Carmen scrutinized her, searching for any telltale sign of deceit. She discerned only remorse, a genuine aspiration to atone. There's ample work, Carmen responded, her voice level. If you're sincere, meet me here tomorrow at dawn. 7 a.m. Sophia nodded, a flicker of hope igniting her eyes. I'll be here. The grand opening of Rodriguez Fuel and Fair became a local celebration of community and resilience. The entire town turned out, eager to witness the transformation and rally behind Carmen's vision. Live music filled the air, food stalls offered enticing aromas, and games entertained the children. The scent of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the fragrance of homemade pastries. Carmen stood on a temporary platform, microphone in hand, her heart overflowing with pride. Elena stood beside her, a steadfast pillar of support. Sophia, looking surprisingly at ease in a volunteer t-shirt, assisted with refreshments. My father bequeathed me far more than just a gas station, Carmen proclaimed, her voice strong and clear. He endowed me with a legacy of service, a commitment to safeguarding others, and a responsibility to improve the world. She paused, her gaze sweeping across the gathered crowd. I am unsure if I can fully measure up to his standards, she admitted, her voice softening. But I pledge to you this. I will devote all my energy to honoring his memory and creating a place where everyone feels welcomed, valued, and safe. An eruption of applause reverberated through the air. Carmen smiled, a radiant, genuine expression. She had confronted peril, treachery, and grief. She had unraveled secrets that had shaken her foundations. But she had also unearthed her inner reserves, her innate fortitude, and her true purpose. As dusk settled, casting a warm, golden hue over the gas station, Carmen surveyed the crowd, her daughters nestled safely by her side. This was far more than merely a business venture. It was a symbol of her rebirth, a testament to her unwavering spirit, and a promise of a brighter future. She had inherited a heritage of intrigue and danger, but she resolved to carve her own path, one paved with empathy, community, and an iron will to protect her family. The gas station had evolved. It was home. It was family. It was her future unfolding.